So this is the New U area, 14th Street, which used to look kind of like that, but has had all these big loft condo things be built recently. It's an area that got destroyed by the civil rights riots on April 5th. I guess that's 1968. And then it became even worse because there was an old hospital near here, and it stopped being used, and it was just behind a fence, kind of like this one, with nothing going on for years and years and years, while the DC government, which was corrupt back then, just like it's supposed to be now, probably was refusing to let anybody develop it, and instead was taking bids on proposed uses. Bids here meaning bribes, trying to decide who to give it to. Finally, they picked a developer who built a row of new houses that we're actually about to come up on that kind of look like these houses. And they built these new houses. And the neighborhood got sort of revitalized. But they didn't just build these new houses, which are actually the ones that you see right ahead. That you can tell are kind of new construction made to look like the pre-existing housing stock. They didn't just build that on this couple of blocks stretching that way and that way that had been this old abandoned hospital. They also then began to buy old little beaten up houses, and I don't know if in some cases they used eminent domain or not, to renovate them and build loft-style housing. One of the buildings they built was this one, the tall building. I'm actually gonna, this is being filmed on a bicycle. This is a bicycle and iPad film. So there's that one, and a bunch of politicos have bought in that building. Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's friend and staffer, and Anthony Weiner's wife, bought a two-bedroom there for like $750,000. That's where Anthony Weiner lives when he's in DC, in his wealthy girlfriend's apartment. And Karen Finney, who is a kind of mid-level minor chattering head on MSNBC and Democratic Party flack, lives there too. Karen Finney's technically African American, although nobody knows it until she tells them. And she'll tell you she's a biracial person whose family includes both slaves and slaveholders. Anyway, she lives in that building. The houses that got torn down to build all this are houses that look like that. And then there are these big loft condos where they were torn down. And since it's DC and we're using your tax money to make ourselves wealthy, these condos are still being built at a rapid pace, as you can see on this block. And one of these condo projects has actually been in the news lately on a bunch of kind of websites about real estate. And it's this building up ahead. So up ahead you see there's this very narrow 6-story condo building being built in the middle of a row of these houses. And it's slightly deceptive journalism just because they're doing it for the irony to make a point, but the things you see on the internet are actually generally this one little building with just an image of the houses on either side. And so it seems very out of place. And it does make an interesting photo and an interesting story. The only thing is that it's not exactly out of place, because most of the neighborhood is these little houses that if you buy one renovated right now, they're $500,000. But there was a time when they sold in the late 90s and 2000s for less than $100,000. I've sold some of them. And only recently you could buy all kinds of them for like less than 2 or less than 3, even when they were renovated. But anyway, a lot of them sold and been turned into loft condos, as you can see there and there and there. They're all over. Just so happens that this one, somebody apparently bought only one little house, couldn't get the houses on either side or couldn't afford them, and they're just building one condo. All these little houses are probably going to become condos at some point, although you can see both the house on the end and also one of the little stone houses in the middle Some yuppies bought it and just put on a partial third floor and a sun deck, roof deck. Which in some neighborhoods in DC, as soon as there are enough yuppies, they of course outlaw any changes to the historical character. And then you can't do that. So you actually have to go like a block or two over into an area with fewer yuppies and therefore fewer regulators, where it's just like the original working class black folk who don't tend to pass all those historical preservation rules about changing the way things look, and then you can change the way things look. Anyway. Speaking of yuppies, this used to be a neighborhood where you would never have seen a teeny non-black baby on the street playing. Anyway. That's my attempt at a little film of this, which, as you can see, parking. Oh! Led me to throw my bicycle down rather than destroy my iPad. Anyway, I suppose I'll end the tape in a few minutes, given that I had a calamity in the middle of it, or maybe I'll let it go for another 3 minutes. Did a 20-minute tape of someone's talk at Howard University, Rand Paul's talk actually, and learned that even though I can now directly upload from this camera to YouTube without going through PhotoBucket, which limited me to 10 minutes, seems like YouTube or my camera, I'm not sure which, also is limiting me to 10 minutes. Anyway, this is just some more of the renovated U Street area. All of this was basically kind of dangerous and slummy, even back in like 2000, 2001. Maybe not 10 years ago, but 11 years ago. Here's more construction. Everywhere you go, somebody is either building a condo or they just built one. Now one-handed filming, and mixed into the middle of all the condos, houses that actually have some historical character. Red house on the very end I actually sold once in my daytime job as a realtor, and it and its sister there, you can see, are both kind of unique in that they have, you can only barely see it, have a lot of stained glass windows left and gas lamps and many original features inside, including all kinds of woodwork and kind of Bertay-ish statuary for light fixtures and finials and things like that. This is T Street, just down off of the U Street corridor as it is called. I am later today going to be soliciting people to sell their houses because there's no inventory in DC. Because the DC real estate market is hot. There's only federal employees who have no chance of losing their job as a rule, even if there's allegedly a hiring freeze in their agency, are the only people whose jobs are secure enough that they can actually get a hold of these great 3.6% interest rates. And hence the housing boom here is fantastic, as you can see there. Very there is construction going on. In fact, let's just end on the construction cranes building things in the neighborhood.